Hey everyone, Brian here from BookTube with kind of a thoughts video today. I want to share with you where I'm kind of at in the growth of the channel, where I'm at mentally, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly of the first year. We'll probably end up cutting some of the ugly out in editing because I don't want this to be a negative video. But as I'm looking at December, it's full of the usual booktuber fare, right? I'm going to be doing my top 10 books, my top 10 disappointing reads of the year, probably update my top 10 all-time fantasy series, the standard stuff that you get, pretty much on everybody's channel in December. So I thought since we just celebrated our 1 year on BookTube a couple of weeks ago, now would be a good time to do a little bit of reflection. And we're going to talk about reflection and course correction in the one for the road today. But today's video is not going to be very edited, and I'm not going to talk about any particular books, maybe some genres, but nothing in particular book-wise. What I want to do is share with you things that I just have really enjoyed about being a booktuber in my first year. I want to share with you some of my frustrations that I've had, both as a booktuber, creator, frustrations that I have with myself, frustrations that I've had with YouTube, frustrations that I've just seen kind of in the community that really are no big deal to anybody probably besides me, but that'll probably be more in the ugly section of at least what doesn't, make the final cut, or what I should say, what does make the final cut of this video. So I did a reflection video after we did our first 50 videos. That was back in early May of 2024 this year. And I started that video talking about kind of the lows. Then I went into the highs. Today, I'm going to do a little bit opposite. I'm going to talk about the good stuff first. Then I'm going to get into the stuff that maybe I have some challenges with. Then we'll get into some stuff that I maybe just don't like at all, and we'll kind of go from there. If there's going to be any editing involved in this video, it's purely so I can look at my notes, because I did make bullet points for this video. I usually don't. And for that, I need my glasses, so there'll be some cuts here and there where I'm talking about each point. Let's get into it. Really, the best part about being a booktuber for me in this first year are the unbelievable friendships that I have made in the BookTube community. First, I want to just talk about actual booktubers. All of us, whether, we have similar channels or not, go through a very similar experience. And there are some few guys, that's why we started the Quilluminati, where, with Philip and John and Mike, that are about my age. So we sort of have a lot of life experiences in common as well as book tastes. And I wouldn't trade those friendships for the world. They are just incredible. John and Philip in particular not only watch every one of my videos, they comment on every one of my videos. Now, I don't expect everybody to do that. Certainly not Mike. Mike's subscribed to literally hundreds of BookTube channels, but it's just a really good feeling when you've got some pretty tight friends out there that even if they're not interested in a particular topic of the day, they're going to watch the whole video. And we'll talk about analytics here in a little bit, but that does make a difference. And they engage me in the comment section. You know what? They don't need to do it. They all have my phone number. They can just call me and tell me what they thought of the video, but they're helping the channel by commenting on every single video. And coming from the bar business, that is really different than what I'm used to. That is a cutthroat, dog eat dog, leave scraps for no one, take as much as you can get, and leave nothing for anybody else. That's the world that I came from for 15 or 16 years. So to come into BookTube and find some people like those guys, and there's plenty of others, Joanna's in there, Evie's in there, Tori's in there, and I'm not going to start listing them because I will inevitably leave people out that should not be left out. But I do want to just say a sincere thank you to the booktuber community who have really welcomed me with open arms right from the bat and all the way still through. So that's a huge pro. That's a big good thing about BookTube. Another thing, the unbelievable loyal fans. I cannot tell you, I don't think it's ever happened that somebody like Esme in particular hasn't commented on a video, Or Slay, he's always, up in the chat for sure when we do our lives and he's commenting. Heidi's always in the comments. Heidi's in the chat. Again, I don't want to start listing a ton of names because I will inevitably leave people out. But the loyal community of people that watch BookTube that I think get it, what I'm trying to do, because what I'm trying to do is quite different. I think you guys know this by now, because this video is not really intended for people that are new to the channel. If you're new to the channel, by the way, I'm Brian. This is BookTube. This is a strange one. You're going to want to go back and watch other episodes to get more of a taste of what this channel is about. This video is really for the people that have been watching for, some time. But the loyalty of the fans and the viewers has been incredible. We've got this Patreon, we have channel memberships, and I cannot thank the people who have chosen to support the channel in that way enough. It doesn't even really go to me. It goes right back into the channel's, expenses itself. Why? I belong to a streaming service so I can put on the best branded looking live streams that I can do. That costs money. I belong to a graphics video service so I can import really cool graphics into the videos because I want to make them look a certain way. That costs money. I belong to a sound service that provides sound effects and background music. Why? Because I personally want to make my videos to a certain level that I would want to watch. Again, that costs money. Now, I would be spending that money regardless, because if I'm going to do BookTube, I want to do it in the way that I want to do it. I know it's kind of a strange sentence, but it's true. But having loyal fans is such a blessed bonus. I can't even express it, to know that, hey, I don't have to go totally out of pocket to make the videos for the people that I'm really trying to improve their days with. And that's really what this channel is all about. We'll get to that here more in a minute. But thank you once again to the very loyal fans of this channel, whether you support by Patreon, channel memberships, or simply just clicking on the video and watching it. That is a huge help. Anybody that's watched this channel, you're making a difference, and I thank you for it. Another great thing about this channel that I love, that I never thought I would, and I've said this many times, are doing the live streams, the episodes of For Whom the Bell Tolls. We've had 22 episodes of that show as of the date that this video drops, and I have to tell you, I was not planning to do interview shows at all, let alone live streams, and it turns out it's something that I like doing, and it turns out that I'm not horrible at doing it. The compliments that I've gotten from that show that I've received have been just incredible, from Hollywood actors to authors to the book community to other booktubers to people who've watched a ton of BookTube. Pretty much universally have said they like the show For Whom the Bell Tolls. And you guys know I prepare. I watch old videos of booktubers. I try to get into the minds of where they're at, to try to ask them questions that maybe they haven't been asked a million times already, so that both you guys as the viewers and myself as a fan of theirs can walk away from a conversation knowing something a little bit about them that we didn't before. In the case of booktubers, some have been around, quite some time. Some have been around 4 or 5 years. But what I love about that show is we're still getting new information after sometimes hundreds of their own original episodes. We're finding out things about them that we had no idea. And to me, that is a huge thing in the win column for this channel. And what's really funny too is that BookTube as just kind of a thing is relatively new, right? We look at somebody like Mike, whose channel's 5 years old, or we look at somebody like Murphy, whose channel I think is 7 or 8 years old maybe, and Daniel Green's probably, 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that, with their channels. But in the big scheme of business, those are pretty small numbers, right? Like I used to say when I owned the nightclub that I had no idea what I was even doing until about year 5. And in year 5, it's just kind of like you're just sort of getting, your feet underneath you and beginning to understand what the business is about. So when I talk to somebody who's been doing this a whole 5 years, yes, it can feel like a really long period of time. But in the big scheme of things, if you've had a job for 5 years, it's a lot different than if you've had a job for 20 years. And so I just love the aspect that this whole thing of BookTube is still new enough where the people that are on really can offer us advice that, they've learned over that time, but that they're not so burned out from doing it forever that they still are excited to bring you guys value. And that's what I love, I think, the most about doing those live streams. And I'll say one more quick thing about doing lives. For me, there's nothing better. As much as I love For Whom the Bell Tolls, do you know what I like even better? Getting invited on other people's streams, because you really don't have to prepare. Now, I know plenty of people who do lives that don't prepare at all, and they just turn the camera on and they've got the ability to just go for it, right? And whatever conversation flows naturally is what happens. And before you know it, an hour and a half, 2 hours has gone by, and you've got a completed show. For Whom the Bell Tolls, I don't do that. I prepare so much that when I get to go on someone else's show, it is such a relief. All I have to do is make sure my equipment is working and that my brain is somehow functional, that I can answer questions or deliver some thoughts on some of the topics at hand, and away we go. So I think for me, one of the best parts about doing BookTube this last year has been being invited on other people's show. If you want to know if you want me to come on your show, all you got to do is ask. As long as it's in my schedule and it's not interfering with other things that I have commitments for, I'm always willing to do that. Whether you've been around since the inception of BookTube or whether your channel is literally a week old, let me know. I'm happy to come do that. And I'll say, like, the final thought I have on what I like about BookTube, and there's a lot, but I also don't want this video to be a half an hour, 45 minutes, but I like the fact that if you do a video and it either doesn't perform well, or you go back and watch it and go, you know what, that's just not the best video I've ever done, you can always go do another video tomorrow. There's always another day to play this game. And I like it. We're going to talk about gamification because that's in the cons part of it. And Bookborn's already done a wonderful video. If I can find it, I'll throw a link to it in the description. If I can't, just go to Bookborn's channel. And she's done just an amazing job about talking about how BookTube kind of gamifies things for creators. And it's really, really valid. And I think the longer you are in BookTube as a creator, the more value you're going to get out of it. But I'm still talking about the good stuff here. And that's the fact that, yeah, you can always go make another video. And that video might be outstanding. And I look at it, again, I make some comparisons to the bar business because that's the world that I'm most familiar with. If you have a lousy weekend, say nobody comes on Friday, and Saturday, I'm in Minneapolis. Saturday, we get 3 feet of snow, right? And now tomorrow's Sunday. And now you got to wait all through the week to get to Friday again to get another opportunity. It's not like that with YouTube. If you want to go make another video 10 minutes after you uploaded one, just go for it. And I think that's a really cool thing. You can take, to use a sports metaphor, you can get another at bat really whenever you want one. And that's an amazing thing about this opportunity. All right, let's talk about some of the things that I find bad about YouTube. And again, I'm going to use that word bad a little loosely. It goes with good and bad and ugly. So let's go to the bad section for a second. I am an analytical guy by nature. Yes, I am creative, and yes, we do weird things on this channel, but by nature, as a business person, I have, 2 majors in business from UW-Madison. I studied international business in London. I've owned businesses my whole life. It's just in my makeup at this point to look at analytics and to try to understand how they work. And trying to understand an algorithm is very much like trying to understand waves in an ocean. Things can change really beyond anybody's knowledge or control. I've had a lot of people on this channel and a lot of people who I respect, and some video training stuff that I've watched, from vidIQ. That's a real popular video service company for creators that put out videos every day on how to make your channel better. And we'll talk about them here in a second. But I don't know. They say compare, the algorithm, get rid of that word and call it your audience. And if a video doesn't do particularly well, that means it didn't resonate with your audience. And I am not sure I buy it. I think it's a great way to look at it, right? Saying, hey, you know what? People aren't liking this. Maybe I ought to try something else. I think in that regard, it's fine. But I brought out a Post-it note today because I have to read this for you. My last video that I did was a book tag video. It was the Lore Keeper's Library book tag that I made up out of my own brain, right? Trying to get a little bit of interaction and some community going in the BookTube world. Now, what did the algorithm decide that that should get showed to, the top, this is unbelievable, the top referred video topic that people were referred to that book tag video were people that were also watching the top Mexican San Andres cigars video. Okay, yeah, you heard that right. A top cigars video is what people were being then shown thereafter to get to my library, my Lore Keeper's Library book tag. So the algorithm certainly is not infallible. It does things that are very strange. About a year or so ago this month, this is the only time this has ever happened. I woke up one day and I had 150 more subscribers than I did before I went to bed at night. And I did not know what that was. And at the time, other booktubers said, well, you must have had that video get picked up by the algorithm. I didn't know what that meant at that time. What it means is that it just started showing it to way more people. Now, that particular video was nothing special. It certainly wasn't one of my best videos, right? I mean, it was a year ago. I didn't have 1,000 subscribers. I think I had a couple hundred subscribers at the time, but YouTube just on its own decided to go spread the word about BelTube, and boom, overnight, 150 new subscribers. You know what? It's never happened since. I have never been, landed in the algorithm and shot out to as many people as possible and witnessed an overnight growth anywhere near that. And I'm going to say, as somebody that pays attention to analytics, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes, because while my growth has been, pretty steady and regular, it's not doubling and tripling and, going bonkers. It's kind of, sticking around about a stagnant to maybe 10% month over month growth at the most. It's never really jumping up, like, holy cow, wow. It's not done that. It's, I get a certain amount of subscribers for every video I do, and that's pretty consistent across the board. So the answer is then, okay, if you want more subscribers, what do you do? Do you just go ahead and make more videos? And the answer is maybe. It depends on what kind of video, and it leads me into the next topic, which is live streams, right? So I talked about the good of live streams. Let's talk about the bad. Live streams don't perform particularly well within YouTube. There's probably some reasons for it. One of them is the titling of the actual live stream, right? So we call all of ours For Whom the Bell Tolls. Now, if you're not searching for Brian Bell or BelTube or For Whom the Bell Tolls and is not looking for a Metallica song or an old, ancient poem that came from in the first place, then, or the Hemingway book, then you're never going to find that live stream, and YouTube's never going to just offer it up to show to people. So live streams are really great for building community. They're really great for newer YouTubers like myself when I would go on a bigger channel, and they're really good for people that are just getting started in BookTube now to come on For Whom the Bell Tolls. They can actually pick up some new subscribers because they're getting more eyes on their channel. But in terms of BelTube growth, For Whom the Bell Tolls has contributed pretty much nothing. It's been a community build, which I will not trade. We are not getting rid of For Whom the Bell Tolls. Don't worry, I like doing it too much. But when we talk about the amount of video time that I have per week to make videos, that would mean I need to sacrifice a bunch of episodes of that for channel growth. I don't know. It's a difficult decision to make sometimes because I want our channel to be bigger. I've been very, I think, open and honest about my goals with this channel, and I call it the BelTube community, and I swear by it. I want our channel to be a very big BookTube channel. I've never shied away from saying that. And is it frustrating a little bit to see this kind of like 8% growth, 10% growth month over? Yeah, of course it's a little bit frustrating, but that's just the nature of where we're at right now. And I don't physically have the time to start making 2-3 additional videos per week while maintaining pretty much a live stream about every 2 or 3 weeks. I just don't have the time because I own another business. That's the Flask company. We can talk about that another time. But I don't have the time to do it. So live streams can be a con as well. Let's talk about the next one. And that next one is a YouTube analytic that I don't know that anybody cares about besides other creators here, but that's watch time percentage. And in particular, how many viewers are still watching the channel after the first 30 seconds. You guys, if you've never seen the back end of YouTube before, meaning that you're not a content creator, you would be blown away how many people nope out of your video in the first 30 seconds. Up until I started to get a little bit more creative with the way that I've been doing intros, and I think you've probably noticed that if you're a regular watcher of the channel, regular viewer of the channel, you've seen I've been kind of doing a little bit more voiceover work and throwing in some funny scenes, or at least I think they're funny. That's another thing, by the way. Just because I think they're funny, it doesn't mean that they're funny. I'm just taking an at-bat, right? See what works. But, you know, I've been putting more attention into that first 30 seconds because I don't want people to nope out of the video. Why? Because when people nope out of the video, the algorithm will say, you know what, this is not interesting to a lot of people. Let's just not offer it up on other people's homepages. So I'm trying to grow our community in a way that is fun for the viewer. It lets me express my creativity, but there is an actual business reason behind it. I'm trying to keep people's attention more by showing them something they've never seen before, that came creatively out of here, that they're never going to see anywhere else. But it can be really tricky to do. And I guess the only thing that I'll say there is, if you are a viewer and there's a particular channel that you really like, whether it's here or anywhere else, even if you don't have the time to watch it or listen to it, there's nothing wrong with hitting the play button and walking out of the room and letting the video play, because you have no idea how you are impacting that creator's ability to find new audiences, because the algorithm will say, hey, there's a bigger percentage of people watching a longer percentage of the video. The algorithm will then say, let's show this to a bunch of other people. And it can kind of spread and multiply and avalanche in a really positive way for your favorite booktubers. So if you really like them, and even if they're talking about something that you don't care about, help them out. I'll give you a great example and then we'll move on. Philip lately has done some book reviews on books that I have not read. They are on my TBR, but I do not watch videos that do book reviews on books that I haven't read. I like going in blind. You guys know that about me already. But does that mean I'm not going to watch Philip's video? No, it means I'm probably going to turn the volume as low as possible so YouTube still knows that's not muted, and I'll probably walk out of the room. Sorry, Philip. I'm just using you as an example, Dr. Fantasy. You know that. But I want to let that video play because I want to help him out. So that's just an example of analytics and watch time in those first 30 seconds. It's something that I think people ought to know about. And because this is a video about talking about what I've learned in my first year, that's certainly an important piece. All right, another part about BookTube, and I know this has been discussed ad nauseum on other channels, and we're going to get to that in the ugly part. It's the time commitment involved. Now, this is a personal choice for every booktuber. YouTube does not send you out a note saying you must put X amount of minutes or hours into the creation of your video. You can literally turn your camera on or your phone on, be done, make a million mistakes, do whatever, upload it, and you're done. There's no work involved. I don't want to do that with this channel. I am very, much into using BookTube as a creative outlet for myself. I enjoy editing, which is kind of strange, but I like doing it. In fact, like somebody's asked me the other day, if the channel was doing exceptionally well, would you hire an editor? And I honestly don't know, because I think I would have a tendency to micromanage the editor, saying, hey, use this sound effect here, or use this graphic here, or I'll just send you all these files and I want them placed here, here, and here. At that point, I might as well just do it myself, right? They're just doing the technical side of it, but I'm still kind of coming up with it. So the time involved for me is by far higher than most who don't do extensive research into the content of their video. I'll give you an example. I talked about Bookborn earlier. She does tons of research. I'll give you another example. Vera, she has just put together a very long video about The Witcher, and the time that she spent doing all the background research to really put out a high quality informational video is astounding. The time that I put in, as you guys probably know, is not so much in research as it is in just kind of creative editing, trying to come up with something fun for you guys that encourages people to either subscribe to the channel or keep coming back and watching the program. Now, this takes me some time. If you want to know how much time, I will tell you. For every video that I make, it usually is about 20 to 30% of the recorded stuff gets chopped out. Why? Because I think of a different way of explaining something, or I think of a better way of getting my point across, and I say, you know what, that was better than what I just said 30 seconds ago, and I'll say, hey, Brian, go back and erase the last 30 seconds. Now, actually, don't do that one on this one, Brian. This is an example. But about 20 to 30% of the video, the raw footage, gets cut out. But when we get to editing, if the video is like 20 minutes long and I start putting in a lot of sound effects and background music and cuts and this and that, on the low end, the very low end, I'm going to spend 3.5 hours editing it. It's usually closer to 5. And then I message John Minton and I say, John, I just spent 4 hours on an editing, and he just writes me back saying, you're insane. And he's correct. I am. But I also want to put something out that's consistent with the channel. And in some regard, that's part of the bad about BookTube for me right now, is that I've been doing this for a year and I still don't exactly know what this channel is. I know my goal hasn't changed, right? It's to provide you guys value. It's either value with books, information. It's value in fun and, kind of booktainment. That's when we have Rick Thunder come out or Funky Mirage comes out, and we do those kinds of things. But we also do, the one for the roads, which a lot of people say are their favorite segments of every episode. And I have tons of people who nope out of that, right? About, I don't know, probably 65% of the people who click on the video never even make it to the one for the road. So does that hurt? Nah, not really. I figure that, when you need to hear a message, you're going to hear a message. And maybe those 60 to 65% of people who clicked on the video didn't need that message that day. So I don't know. It's just part of kind of the program of YouTube that can get a little bit frustrating when you're putting in time, and in my case, lots of editing time. And as I get better, by the way, that editing time should come down. But I enjoy doing it, but it's a time commitment. And if you look at some of the gamifications or the payoffs, plenty of booktubers have talked about what they earn on BookTube. I can just kind of candidly share some generics with you because I don't want to deep dive too much into that. But I make about, on these ads that you guys probably click through, I make about $15 for every 1,000 people that watch, the video. And my typical videos generally get between 1,000 and 1,500 viewers, unless somehow it just, pops off over time. And we're going to talk about one of those here in a minute. But, okay, use a round number. 1,000 people watch it, get paid about, $15 for every 1,000 people. That's $15 that went into essentially at least a half a day's work. So you can do the math on that one. It's not outstanding. Nobody's really here for the money if you're on BookTube. And I will share this with you guys. Your channel might blow up if you're brand new, but this needs to be a hobby, okay? The payments are just not there, at least for a long time. You need to have 6-figure subscribers. And even then, the ad money is kind of a pittance compared to if you were talking about economics or real estate or business or finance or politics. Those advertisers pay way more than they will per 1,000 videos for people who talk about books. Now, I'm not going to drill into that, but that's something that I wanted to bring up for sure. The last thing that I'm going to talk about regarding the bad of YouTube so far for me is that having a channel has sort of determined my TBR. And while that can be good, like I always ask you guys to comment, your favorite books, or comment your TBRs, or comment your book hauls. And I do that for a reason. I get lots and lots of recommendations from the BookTube community. I love it. However, there are a lot of books I would like to be reading, but for this channel, I just can't do it. I'm addicted to Malazan, you guys. I'm absolutely loving it. I wasn't sure if I would or not, but, Matt on Books said I would. Philip said I would. A lot of the people that I trust in the community said I was kind of a Malazan type of a person. If I had my druthers, and yes, that's how old I am. I just used the word druthers. Maybe I'll zoom in on that word, druthers. That's a good word. Anyway, I'd be reading Malazan for the next, I don't know, 6 months and just blast through the whole series. But I don't think that everybody would want to just tune in and, find out about my Malazan journey for the next 6 months. So I have to mix it up. And that's not always what I want to do when I'm reading. And I have found that certain books are suffering in my mind as I'm reading them. Why? Because I'd rather be reading a Malazan book. And I have to be very careful that that does not inform my reviews or my opinions of any particular book, because I know I'm reading it through a lens of my own personal thoughts saying, God, this is pretty good, but boy, I wish I was reading Midnight Tides right now. And boy, I wish I wasn't waiting on Midnight Tides until February. So I don't want those types of thoughts to cloud my thinking when it comes to, what I am reviewing and what I'm reading. But as a kind of a potential con of BookTube, yeah, it can make it so the books that you want to read have to be spaced out differently. It's just something to bear in mind. Let's talk about the ugly for a second. Now, this is going to be the shortest of all the segments because this is mostly about me. Everybody's going to react to different content creators differently. I am 100% aware that BookTube is not everybody's cup of tea. How do I know that? Well, I know that in general, if someone watches, if any particular video gets 1,000 views, right? About 550 of them are subscribers, about 450 of them are not. And the video might pick up 2 or 3 subscribers, but that means that 400 and some odd people who watched the video, or at least clicked on it, opted not to subscribe. Now, that can be a little tough to swallow, but guess what? We're big boys and girls over here. That's just part of the real world that we live in. And you know what? Frankly, there's other booktubers out there that, I have full respect for because I know how difficult this is. But whatever reason, it just doesn't jibe with me. When I see clickbaity thumbnails out of BookTube, it drives me up a tree. Why? I don't know. I don't think it's their fault. They're doing what they need to do to build their channel. I think it's mostly a personal preference and a taste kind of thing for me, because I know I could do the same thing. I know I could make the most clickbait titles, the most clickbait thumbnails, drive my views way up, get more impressions, get more exposure, grow the channel, have a bigger Patreon. I know all of that from a business fundamental standpoint. It just rubs me the wrong way. So what can I say? You're not going to get a lot of clickbaity thumbnails here, if ever. And there's been times that I've made thumbnails and totally changed them out and totally changed the title because I was like, you know what? I don't want to feel formulaic. I don't want to go watch a vidIQ video and just do what they tell me to do to grow channel, because that's just not who I am. So again, when I talk about ugly, I don't mean in any way offensive against any BookTube people that do their channel different than I do. We all have different motivations. I'm just coming from a spot, and I've talked about this on Twitter quite a bit, and now I'm over on Blue Sky as well. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of thing just is not, my favorite. And I guess kind of along with that, this is something I've been guilty of a lot. And I don't know that this part's going to change, but I'm going to call it the thumbnail face, right? So we've all become very accustomed to booktubers making faces on their thumbnails, and I am not immune to this. I do it all the time. That is so over exaggerated. It's like almost comedy, right? So like if we're doing a disappointed video, it's like, or if we are unsure about a video, huh? I don't know. It's sort of comedy to me, but you don't find that in a whole lot of other spaces that I've seen on YouTube. It's so much BookTube where we just give these crazy looks. I don't know. It's a personal pet peeve of mine, but I do it too. So if I can't look in the mirror and call myself on my own bullshit, then we truly have a problem. So it's just something that, I don't know, just wanted to mention it today. Let's move on. So I want to talk about the future of BookTube and sort of where I see us going over the next, 3-6 months, something like that. I think that's about enough time to take a look and see where, we're headed. And I think right now we're sort of at a crossroads. Right now, I can kind of take a turn this way and go more live stream, more serious BookTube content, more reviews, more analysis of what I think, is going on in the book world. I can take a turn this way and still do the live streams, but rather than so much analytical reviews or, subjective reviews as they really all are, turn this more into booktainment, right? Where it's just more fun focused, and we do more Rick Thunder episodes, and we have more personas coming out, and we really kind of target in on that booktainment side of things. Or choice 3, we sort of stay the course that we're going, and we try to combine a little bit of both. That's my inclination. My inclination is to try to continue to do this in a similar way that I have been doing it, where I can give a little bit of something to everybody. The challenge there are those growth rates that I talked about, right? I mean, I know if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting what I've got. And yes, we are over 3,000 subscribers. That is great. But as somebody that has been in business a really long time, I would have thousands of people coming to my bar every single weekend. My goals are just kind of mentally a little bit different than that because of my prior life experience. Not because I think this channel is so great, but just my decisions many times are informed by my other things that I've done in life. And I know if I just keep doing what I'm doing, our growth rate's probably going to stay about the same, right? Particularly if I continue to do For Whom the Bell Tolls, because it doesn't add any new people to the stream. So again, it's sort of a crossroads. Let me know in the comments which you prefer. It's not going to be the end all be all, right? And I know that a lot of you guys are lurkers, right? And earlier in the video, I thanked a lot of people for commenting regularly and helping boost engagement on the channel, because that is another thing that I believe the algorithm looks at. Not totally sure. I don't really think anybody outside of Google probably knows, but there's a lot of you guys that are just lurkers, and you lurk every video. And even though I don't know who you are, I appreciate you immensely. I was never really a lurker. Why? Because I'm a talker. I just talk a lot. And I have ultimate respect for people that can just listen and don't have to throw their 2 cents in every time. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of both ways. I don't want the comment section to become sort of like the vocal minority, right? Where there's just a handful of voices that are determining the future of this channel. So bear in mind, while I do appreciate the comments and while I am asking for what you guys think, it's not the end all be all. Ultimately, I have to make a decision where I want to spend my time and how I think the community can grow in a way that I think benefits everybody, both for content reasons and also for exposure reasons. So whether you comment every time or whether you are lurking and helping, the watch time on the channel, you are hugely beneficial. But like I said, I'm sort of thinking of continuing as I've been doing, but I am a little bit hesitant because I don't want to stagnate growth too much. I guess we'll probably give it, I don't know, let's say another 90 days, and we'll see what happens. And if it turns out I need to do less Rick Thunder invitations and more book stuff, that might be what we do. If it turns out there's plenty of that already and there's nobody else like me that's inviting these special personas in, we may go more towards that. I will tell you one thing we're certainly going to be doing is more LitRPG. By far and away, the #1 most viewed video on BellTube is the LitRPG starter guide that I made about a year ago. And this is something that I think we need to be on the crest of the wave. We've all heard about Dungeon Crawler Carl now. We are all seeing big BookTube channels talking about LitRPG. If you've been around since the beginning, you know that I've been talking about it since the beginning of the channel. If you've been around me personally, you know I've been talking about this genre for 10 years. And some of the challenges that I've had is that LitRPG comes out at a rate that is just immensely, excessively fast. And it is very difficult for me to stay on top of all the new LitRPG that's coming out because these series are huge. Right now I'm in the middle of He Who Fights with Monsters, and I'm on book 11. I am only on book 1 of The Primal Hunter, and then there's like 9 of them out right now. The list goes on and on. I won't list them all, but there's a lot of people who turn to BookTube for LitRPG kind of guidance and advice and to find out what it is. And I want to be here for those people. And I want to be here for you people that are still newbies to it or haven't tried it yet and are contemplating it and saying, hey, you know what? If Brian can read Book of the New Sun and Malazan and The Wheel of Time and The Dark Tower and so on and so forth, I'm not such on my high horse that I look down and poo-poo LitRPG. It's just a different form of story, and it's great. So I want to be able to make that type of content too. So absolutely look for more LitRPG in the coming year. And so those are kind of my thoughts on the good, the bad, the ugly. I suspect, you know, I told you guys earlier about 25 or 30% of the video gets cut out. I think about half of this video is going to get cut out because I've been talking a really, really long time here. I guess I had a lot to say, maybe to myself. But for a one for the road today, I think, you know, I've talked about this, you know, a few times, but it bears repeating, I think, and that's taking a particular time, whether it be weekly, monthly, certainly quarterly, definitely not annually, but at the very least quarterly, and take a look at where you are in different aspects of your life: physical fitness, mental health, emotional health, all of the things, and take a look and see, hey, where am I at right now? And if I continue on this course, where will I be in 90 days from now? And is that your target? If the target is yes, I'm absolutely going to be where I want to be, then you stay the course. If the answer is it doesn't look that way, then it's time to reevaluate and figure out, all right, how do I make a course correction? What type of course correction is required? Now, here's the difficult part. There's no user guide to life, right? You're going to make a course correction. It might take you even further off course. It just takes time. You're going to have to do that for 60 to 90 days to realize, okay, this course correction was the wrong way. What is the opposite of what I just did? And give that a try. And it's just continuous self-improvement. That's a big part of BookTube. That's why we do these one for the roads, right? It's not just about books. This is a personal development channel as well, if you haven't figured that out by now. So I just wanted to kind of remind everybody, and always, including myself, that it is good to at least every quarter, and do not wait for, you know, my annual New Year's resolutions. It's way too long. You got to do it quarterly at the least. And try to course correct where you can. All I know is it's worked for me. I hope it works for you as well. So this has been a pretty amazing year, you guys. We've hit many of the goals that I had in mind. We came short of many goals that I had in mind. But again, here we are reassessing. It's time to start season 2 of BookTube. It's time to start our second year. And it is time to do things in ways, both in your personal life and professional life, and mine too, that only put bigger smiles on our faces than we had in the last year. I want to thank everybody who sat through this entire video. This is really just kind of my own personal thoughts. Your mileage may, as always, vary. But of course, like we say every time, stay positive, and here's your fortune.